I don't live in a very, very Jewish world. What I see as my role at the CJN, in part, is having this bigger picture of how society at large sees Jews and being kind of prepared to understand it. So on October 16th, 2023, I wrote a column really just asking, where would a Jew not be considered a settler? This was at a moment where Jews were being accused not only of being settlers anywhere in Israel, not specifically in the West Bank, and also anywhere in North America, and basically just looking at this question of where on earth is there a consensus that Jews can live and that that's fine. Sometimes the answer isn't a place, but it is rather that there are people who think Jews should not live. My name is Phoebe Maltz-Bovey, and I'm the opinion editor at the Canadian Jewish News. To support this kind of work, make a tax-deductible donation at thecjn.ca/donate.
I think I've hid my identity for so many years in the music industry because I've gotten such bad responses the second people find out where I'm from, that I'm Jewish.
Hello, bonjour, shalom, and welcome to Culturally Jewish. I'm David Sklar.
And I'm Ilana Zakon.
On this week's episode, we chat with Erez Zobary, a Toronto R&B and pop artist who is releasing her new album with a focus on her Yemenite Jewish background.
Mama always wanted me to be a doctor, but I became an artist and that really shocked her. Now I'm interviewing people in the biz, pros and newish, but all of them are artists and they're culturally Jewish.
Alana, 'tis the season. Hanukkah is fast approaching. What are your plans?
I am managing to squeeze in a few Hanukkah parties, as I'm sure we'll talk about in the next few months. I'm going to be off to California for January and February, so I am getting ready to head out for that. But I'm going to a friend's Hanukkah party. I have some family Hanukkah parties. So I'll get to squeeze in a few of those and hopefully get some rest. I feel like I don't know about you, David, and I know you mostly work in theater, but for the film industry, it's the only 2 weeks of the whole year that it's shut down. So I know I'm not going to get any auditions.
You don't know that for sure. They always sneak one in on December 21st.
Yeah, they sneak
last
one in
minute.
right before. I have a friend staying with me right now, and she just got one yesterday. She was like, "What? I thought it was over." But
Exactly.
But starting around Christmas time, it's going to be actually dead. And usually every year I cannot wait and I turn my computer off. But because I'm going away on this trip and there's just so much to get done and I'm trying to revamp I have a writing business that I do on the side and I'm redoing the website and I'm trying to get all this stuff together before this LA trip so I can go make connections. So it might not be as restful as I would have liked and what I normally have. But hopefully I am productive and I can get some chill time filled with latkes. How about you?
I will be staying here for Christmas/Hanukkah. A lot of John's family is coming in. I'll obviously do a big Hanukkah party at the temple. And then in the new year, I'm going to head off to New York with a friend of mine to see some theater.
Oh.
So I'm really looking forward to the new year.
What are you going to see?
Stereophonic, which I've heard great things about.
Okay.
Maybe Happy Ending with Darren Criss from Glee.
Ooh, that's cool.
Our Town with Jim Parsons. And then one more.
I heard about that.
Yeah, and then one more.
Oh my
I
God.
haven't
Apparently
decided yet.
Our Town is amazing. He would make the most, he's the narrator, right?
He's the narrator, and I saw it 20 years ago on Broadway with my mom. With Paul
I was in
Newman.
Our Town in school, in theater school.
Theater school, John Abbott?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
So it's very nostalgic for me.
Yeah. I look forward to re-seeing it again. So I'm just looking forward to some theater in New York and catching up with some friends there.
That sounds lovely. So we have a really cool guest on today. I've known about Erez, I think now for it'll be almost 3 years. One of my first dates with my now husband was going to see this band Lawrence, which they're Jewish as well, American from New York, and they do really funky music. And I had wanted to go see them for a while. They were coming to Toronto. I was living in Toronto, and I brought Ari, and Erez was opening for them. And I was like, who the heck is this? She's so good. And we both got into her music. And I've been in touch with her since then. I wrote an article about that concert for my column that I used to have, The Jewish Nomad. So we've both been, aware of each other for a while, but this is my first time actually getting to talk to her.
So can you say that it's because of her that you and Ari are now together and married?
Sure, let's go with that. Defining moment. Probably not.
Absolutely.
But it is yeah. Every now and then, she comes up on my shuffle Spotify playlist. And the new album is super cool, and I'm very excited for everyone to listen to it.
Yeah, I started listening to her only last week while I was doing yoga, and I thought it was really wonderful. Some excellent songs in there to connect to her roots and to connect to the Jewish community. So let's take a listen.
איך אומרים בית? בית. בית? בית. איך אומרים משפחה? משפחה. She is a blessed one. Her light shines so bright. A tamanya from Radha, with a flicker in her eye. She is a traveled one. Took a magic carpet ride. Nowhere to turn to, and nowhere left to hide. Never seen an airplane. Never even left a town. Now she's worlds away. Now she's worlds away. Always been a standout. 5 kids, 1 room, no handouts. 'Cause that's her way. Strength in
Erez,
the
it's so great to finally get you on the show. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Yeah, I got a chance to see Erez perform opening for Lawrence back in Toronto. I think it was 2 years ago at the Danforth Music Hall. It was awesome. That was how I first heard of you. And then my husband and I have been listening to your music since then. This is your 4th album, Erez, that just came out. But it's your first time really exploring your Jewish Yemenite ancestry, whereas your other, in that same style as, a lot of your influences that you talk about. And I think Lawrence is a great example of that, like funky jazz, pop kind of like blend. This one has, more of your roots in it. What inspired you to finally explore this?
I felt like with the other music I was making, I had a lot of fun with it at the time. I liked performing it, but it kind of just started to feel disconnected from who I am, which I think is okay. Like, I think for a lot of artists, we're putting on a performance, we're, maybe taking on different identities or different personas. But I think I got to a point where I wanted to try something drastically different from what people expected or from what people knew of my music. And integrating Jewish themes or Yemenite culture was always something that I wanted to do, but I didn't really know how, and I didn't really know who to consult and what to do about it. And that's really where the Canada Council for the Arts grant that I got plays into it, because I actually was able to get the funding and the connections that I needed to create that album. I don't think I would have been able to do it without extra support. And so that really allowed me to step into this new, I don't even know if you'd call it a genre, but to me, it's like a new phase of my career almost.
Can you give us a couple examples of specifically, who or what helped you go to that place and explore that style?
I think it mostly was family members. Like, of course, there's like Ofra Haza and like Ewa that are doing amazing work, and I listen to them and I look up to them and think like, wow, this is so, so cool. But I really think it was mostly family members, like hearing my brother's bar mitzvah in Yemenite and knowing he was the only person in his school doing that, probably one of the only people in Canada doing like a traditional Yemenite reading, hearing my dad, sing the Shabbat prayers every week in a Yemenite way, and, visiting with my Safta and hearing her sing and tell stories. I think it was really mostly understanding that my family did things a little bit differently and wanting a chance to do that in my own way. I didn't have a bat mitzvah. I wasn't able to do that. And I think I actually have a lot of regrets about that. And so to me, this was like my way of showing up to the culture kind of later on in life and inspired by those family members.
I want to talk more about this Canada Council for the Art grant, because that allowed you to go to Israel. It allowed you to rediscover your Yemenite roots, including the history and story of your grandparents who emigrated to Israel from Yemen on Operation Magic Carpet. And I'm curious, how did this journey shape the sounds and themes of your album?
My family's history and story shaped the album a lot, and I very specifically chose what I wanted to talk about in this album and what I felt could be left out and dealt with in a different medium than through music and song. So I would say definitely Yemenite sounds influenced the album. And I chose to put my family's voice notes throughout the album so that it was very clear. Like, I wanted people to hear my Safta talking, my Abba talking, Saaja, who's my Safta's brother. I wanted you to hear their voices and the different ways that they speak Hebrew that has a bit more of like an Arabic sound to it. It was really important for me to do that. In terms of the actual instrumentation, traditionally, Yemenite music only includes a Yemenite tin drum, which now we use basically empty olive tins, and that is used as percussion. And traditionally, we don't use instruments because after the destruction of the Second Temple, we promised not to use instruments until the next temple was born. I actually always thought it was because, like, in Yemen, we were really poor and we like didn't have access to instruments. And that was actually a really cool thing during this process. I actually learned, oh, it's actually not because of that. I just totally made assumptions.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, it was this like real dedication to the temple, the religion. And so I did depart from traditional Yemenite music by including bouzouki and oud and different instruments. But to me, that reflects the contemporary Yemenite music and the way things are going. And then in terms of my family's history, I really wanted this album to focus on joy and resilience and strength, because I think for a lot of Yemenite families, it is often a story of hardship and racial discrimination and a lot of difficult moments, whether it's actually talking about Operation Magic Carpet or talking about the Yemenite Children Affair, which impacted my family. And when I first submitted this grant, I thought I was going to write all these songs that uncover the histories of what happened. And as I was writing, and especially after writing after October 7th, I wanted to make something that was about strength and joy and community and togetherness. And not that those histories aren't important, and I'm still very, dedicated to shedding light on those histories, but it felt like what my family would want to listen to and what they would need.
I love that. I would love to talk a bit more about those recordings that you included of your family speaking. Tell us more about what that process was like, and what did you learn? Anything that you didn't know that kind of blew your mind about your family history?
Yeah. So a lot of the album was me sitting with my grandmother and her brother, and just hearing their stories and better understanding what life in Yemen was like for them and what it was like to move to Israel, and hearing just, family stories that I didn't really know about. I think the most profound, impactful moment was speaking to Saaja, who is my grandmother's brother. And their mother died very young in Yemen, and it did impact the family and all of the relationships in the family because their father remarried and all of that. And hearing from Saaja that he didn't even realize their mother had passed away. He thought there was actually a party going on in the community because everyone was gathering, and they were like, I guess the whole community was kind of walking along with her body. And he just thought it was a party, and he was like laughing and singing, and he just didn't really realize what was going on. That was like, I was just like bawling my eyes out because I heard a very different perspective from my grandmother, who I think was more aware of what was happening. And it was really interesting to sit down with her brother and kind of hear a different perspective on what happened. I think I also gained more understanding of my grandmother and just how much she had to sacrifice in her life, not really realizing that she didn't get the chance to graduate high school because she had to go and work and be a cleaning lady for like wealthy families in Tel Aviv. And I didn't fully understand that, she wanted to continue and pursue education, but she actually wasn't given that opportunity. And I also didn't fully understand that in Yemen, I always knew like, oh, my great grandmother married when she was 12, but I didn't fully understand just how like normalized and also kind of fraught that was. Like hearing my grandmother sing this song, begging her parents, like, don't sell me like a cow, don't sell me like a sheep, let me stay with you. And I would always ask her, especially while writing, like, were you guys sad when you sang this? Like, this sounds really sad to me. And she was like, no, it was just normal. This is the song we sing. So
Wow.
I don't think I fully understood what life in Yemen was like, especially for women. And that really went on to inform my song, Henna, being like, thank God I have these choices and I'm able to, like learn from my ancestors and the women that came before me. And thanks to them, I'm able to have choice and I'm able to, have so many more freedoms as a woman.
They told her where to go at 7 months old. The price was worth the cost, but her daughter was the lost, begging to stay home, pleading not to go. She couldn't fight for what she wanted, but now I'm on her shoulders. She taught me to be bolder. Well, I'm not losing sleep, wondering if my love is free. We're not counting sheep, dancing a song she used to sing to me.
So yeah, you were talking about obviously your relationship with your grandmother in the
Right after October 7th, the CJN really had a challenge of how we were going to cover what we knew was going to be the most important story, likely of our journalistic careers. And we think about what are the stories that we uniquely can tell. We have strong and deep ties and relationships in the community. We can go to the same event that everyone else, all the mainstream media will cover, but we will cover it differently. We'll cover it smarter because we have an understanding of the context and the nuance of the communities that we've worked in. My name is Lila Sarek, and I'm the news editor at the Canadian Jewish News. The CJN wants to continue to cover important stories across the country and important stories in Israel as well. And we can only do it with your help. Visit thecjn.ca/donate to support our work. And if you live in Canada, you will also receive a Canadian tax receipt. Thank you.
song Henna, in the song Safta as well too, where you ask your grandmother, how do you say I love you? How do I say house? How do I say family in Arabic? But there's another song too, Faith, where you say you're losing all your faith in everybody, in us. Does this reflect a personal struggle or maybe a broader disillusionment with society?
Yeah, I think it really is just talking about the state of the world right now, how polarized it is, how we can't be in conversation with, we can't sometimes even be in a room with people that we know have different political views or different value systems or different perspectives. I think it's really sad. I think it's really dangerous. I wish we lived in a world where we could talk more openly and be able to see things from other people's perspectives. And I think when I say us, I'm talking about everyone, the whole entire world. I'm talking about every single person, because I think we all are contributing in some way to this divisiveness. And I hope we're able to, come together and find those connection points, because I think it is not a good thing for everyone to fracture off into their groups that have the exact same belief systems as them and have the exact same perspectives. And I really wanted to keep that song open. I wanted you to be able to listen to it and not know exactly what I'm saying and be like, oh, well, is she on my side or is she on this side? Is she on that side? I'm not telling you which side. And I think that's okay. Yeah.
Because, you did post lyrics in Hebrew for the first time on Instagram, right? Were you at all nervous about what the backlash or what people who are seeing this might say?
Yeah, I think I had to go through a lot of therapy to prepare for this album and for what I was expecting. I knew this would kind of change how a lot of people saw me, which also was unfortunate because it shouldn't be like inherently political to see Hebrew writing. Like this
Yeah.
is the language that Jews have spoken and read in for many, many, many years.
But you know, I
Before.
would say it doesn't even matter when someone posts anything even about Hanukkah these days. It's what do we see is, you know, screw Israel and free Palestine. It doesn't really matter, even if it's not inherently political. This is the world we live on, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And so I was nervous because I knew that this was the reality that I was releasing the album into. I think that I've really gotten to a point where I'm kind of just done hiding who I am. I think I've hid my identity for so many years in the music industry because I've gotten such bad responses the second people find out where I'm from, that I'm Jewish. I think I hide my identity in the school boards that I work at. I'm going to U of T right now. I certainly don't tell people where I'm from, and I'm slowly starting to break that. How people respond is not my business. No one chooses, what family they're born into, and it just so happens that I love the family I'm born into, and I'm really, proud of my identity and where I come from. And that isn't political. Like that shouldn't be a political statement to say. I've lost hundreds of followers. I don't really care. I've gained a lot too, and I've gained a lot of followers that really resonate with the project and are excited about it. I will say it's changed my perspective on like how I want to perform. Yeah, this year I chose to have a Jachnun Malawach Yemenite brunch as my album release party, have people that I know I'm very comfortable with, that I'm close to, that know my family, that know our hearts and our values come and celebrate with us. I'm actually off social media for the last year and a half. I'm not running my social media. So I'm like
Nice.
looking at all the
I need that.
Yeah, I'm looking at the posts, I'm making the captions, I know exactly what's going up, but I have not scrolled on social media for a very long time. And I think that was because, I was kind of really taken aback with how social media was going. And
Yeah.
we have a family member who's hostage. And so I think seeing that video circulating on social media post October 7th of her being kidnapped was very traumatic. And then seeing how a lot of the music industry and my followers were posting that day was really hard for me. So I haven't been back. I'll never go back. And I'll always kind of, I've just
Wow.
learned to really stay true to myself and make boundaries and only do what feels comfortable and right for me. And I don't think I'll ever change that.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I feel emotional just hearing you talk about that because we've talked about this on the podcast with many, many guests. We've all been impacted, and I myself had gone off social media for at least the first few months after October 7th. And it is something I struggle with. And I hear a lot of strength in what you're saying about just unabashedly being like, this is me, take it or leave it. I'm not taking it personally. I'm not political. I just am who I am. And I was wondering if you had one tip to give someone who might be listening right now, who's an artist and who's Jewish and Canadian and is feeling this way, what is something that has helped you get to that place?
If you are a musician who's struggling with this, I would highly recommend to see a therapist because it is helpful to talk it out with someone. I see like a student therapist, it's $35. It's very affordable. There are so many affordable options because I think it is really helpful to understand why we are feeling anxious and stressed and what has happened in the past to kind of inform our reactions. That is one thing. Another thing I think is you can create art without feeling like you have to share it right now, that it has to be perfect, that it has to say exactly what you think, which I think, our perspectives can also shift and they are fluid. And sometimes we put so much pressure on ourselves to release something that like 100% perfectly encompasses everything we're thinking. And I think that that's really hard right now, especially as there are so many emotions and they can change day to day, even based on the news. There's so much that we're all feeling. So yeah, not putting that pressure to put out something that's perfect and, really encompasses something in a neat bow. I don't think anything right now can be put out in a neat bow where you can just say, oh, totally, I feel good, I understand. I also think it's good to lean into the Jewish community right now and find artists that you can collaborate with, even though I'm also trying to not close off other communities. And kind of, I don't know if I've perfectly perfected that balance of like leaning into the Jewish community and also making sure I don't close off to other communities that have different
It's
beliefs.
tricky. Yeah.
Yeah, and it is hard.
I hear you.
Yeah, I think just keep creating, keep trying to make something that feels good to you. There's so many songs on this album, there's so many songs that were part of the writing process that didn't make it into the album that I needed to hear and that my friends needed to hear and brought us so much comfort, but that didn't make it in. And that's okay. Like, you don't always have to release everything. You can sit with things for months and months and months and reassess and see how it feels. So I think especially during this time, not thinking about releasing or publishing, but just creating things that you actually personally need.
I love that.
As we're talking, I look behind your background. I see a chalkboard with different class schedules. You kind of live a double life. You're a teacher by day, sometimes a singer by night. Do your students know that you perform while they're doing homework?
Some of them do. I definitely, when I have really loud classes, I'm like, don't make me lose my voice because I have a show in 2 days. And if I can't sing, it's because of you. And the principal once actually played me on the speaker in the morning announcements, which was very funny and embarrassing. But yeah, some of them do know. Actually, recently I had a student on Wednesday who saw me in the hall and was like, I listened to your new album. I loved it so much. And that was really nice. It makes me happy. So yeah, they do know.
Because they can search you out online and follow your career. So I'm just like, does that make it awkward when you're trying to teach them? And does that influence what you choose to put out in your music?
Absolutely. I think about everything I put out as a teacher who like young people can look up and see my content. I definitely always want to be appropriate. I think that's why I've also gone this like grandma booby chic energy because
Love
like
it.
yeah, I can't really go the other way, which to me is more like scandalous and like, which I love too, but it's also just not me. But yeah, I am thinking about my students all the time.
That's so funny. I just wanted to say that I don't remember exactly what the outfit was, but I remember when you came out on stage in the Lawrence concert and I was like, I need that outfit. And I love that, bubby chic. It's so true. Like thrift store, comfy, but cool.
Yeah, and it's always like, I always dress like, every time I'm going on stage, I'm like, could I wear this to school? And if I can't wear it to school, I'm like, I'm not gonna wear it. I just like,
that's so interesting.
Yeah, I don't want them to see me in pictures. Like, I don't know. There was one time I posted something and my mom called me and she's like, you have to delete this. She's like, the school board, the kids will see. I'm like, okay, you're right. But I actually think it's nice to, I don't feel like I can't post. It's just, I think for me, if I wouldn't feel comfortable with one of them seeing it, I probably just shouldn't be posting that material. So I actually think it's kind of nice and it'll actually allow me to look back on my career and have less like cringy moments of like, oh God, I shouldn't have posted that. Like I'm kind of happy.
And aside from your students, what other kind of responses have you been getting from the Jewish community or other communities to this new album?
I've gotten a lot of people telling me that they have been crying a lot, even non-Jewish listeners, which I'm really surprised about. But a lot of people have told me that listening to my Safta and Saadia and hearing the voice notes makes them really emotional. I think just because like we all have grandparents and whether they're alive or not alive anymore, it just brings up a lot of emotion and connection to relatives. So that has been really surprising. definitely a lot of Jewish people have been like, I really needed this project. It feels very comforting right now. I think I've also had people be like, I'm not Jewish, and I see a lot of myself in this project, whether they're like from the Middle East or not. But I think a lot of people just, I don't know, I think hearing the like Yemenite, which is like Judeo-Arabic, shows a lot of people like, oh, we're not like that different in many ways. Like, you know, my grandmother can speak Yemenite and she's also fluent in Arabic. And like, I think it just builds more connection and shows people we're not that different. So I think a lot of people have also listened to the album and felt that way as well, which is really nice.
So before we let you go, I wanted to just have like a nerding out moment, because this type of music I listen to is within your world, and you've opened for many bands like Lawrence and Sammy Ray and the Friends. What was your experience like as a Canadian music artist getting to perform with these, you know, American groups within your genre?
It was really cool. I was freaking out, especially for the Lawrence show. Like it basically
They're so
like
great.
Yeah, they're so good, and it like doubled my audience.
Yeah.
Both like from followers. Like I walk around the city, and even now people are like, "Oh my god, I saw you open for Lawrence," or like, "Oh my god, I saw you open for Sammy Ray." Like those were two very big moments. It was really fun. I was freaking out for like months before the Lawrence show. I would wake up every day and be like, "Oh my god, how am I about to do this? This is coming up." It was just really fun. It felt like I was given the platform to just like market myself and my music in front of so many new people and to play iconic venues. Like to say that I played Danforth Music Hall and the Phoenix, which is closing down now, and I'm so sad, but to say that I played these venues, it's like such an honor and such a privilege. Like honestly, after those events, I was like, okay, I feel like I've kind of like done what
I can retire now.
Yeah, I felt kind of like, okay. I mean, the only last one is Lake Street Dive. I'm like, that is actually my dream.
Okay. That's also one of the bands that is in my world.
Yeah, and once that happens, I'm like, okay. But it's been really fun, and it also connected me to so many musicians that were kind of more within where I was, like Emma Jane and Couch. And
you're literally like naming my Spotify playlist.
I don't know any of these people
David, get on it. Yeah,
this is so out of my wheelhouse.
This is like exactly my wheelhouse.
Okay.
They're all amazing, and now we're all friends. Like Couch came to Toronto,
so
and they
cool.
and we got to hang out with them. And Emma Jane opened for me in my last big Toronto show, and we hosted Emma Jane and Mikey Jose. I'm obsessed with him. Like we had a big concert together. So I've actually found that it has allowed me to connect with smaller musicians more in my like realm.
Yeah.
And that has probably been the best part, like to come out with friends that we just love to jam together. It's like the dream.
That's so cool.
I'm assuming this is your last day probably at school as everyone winds down for the holidays. What are you going to do for Hanukkah this year?
Oh, I'm going to be in California for Hanukkah with family, which I'm very excited about. And we've got 2 really cute nieces, so I'm excited to like light the candles with them and, you know, make latkes and have some festivities, but mostly resting. Like I'm working 3 jobs. I'm doing a master's full time. I'm so sleepy. I'm really ready to just take a nap and enjoy the Hanukkah joy, you know, horizontally for the most part.
Sounds like a plan.
Enjoy all the latkes, have tons of sufganiyot, and we wish you all the best moving into 2025.
Thank you so much. Same to you.
I've been trying to write what's in my heart, 'cause I've been hiding for so long, and this is a start to show you where I fall. I was born into a beautiful web of people that came before me, alive and dead. They shaped me in
Okay, folks, so Alana had to dip out early, so it's just going to be me for the listings. Basically, this is going to be a Hanukkah smorgasbord of events. Monday, December 30th at 5:30 p.m. at the Calgary City Hall atrium. There's going to be the annual Hanukkah menorah lighting. Now, last year, there was quite a kerfuffle when Mayor Gondek decided to cancel last minute due to a poster stating, "Come join us for Hanukkah, support Israel." That created a whole backlash in the community. This year, I've been told that Mayor Gondak will be back in attendance. I'm just curious, how will she be greeted at this coming event? And again, another Hanukkah event happening January 1st, 6 p.m. to ring in the new year if you're not hungover. Again, at Temple B'nai Tikva, they are hosting another Hanukkah party with food, games, and more. Just RSVP in advance. And if you're tired of all these Calgary-centric events happening, the Siegel Theater, playing until January the 12th, is The Secret Chord, a Leonard Cohen experience. It is a tribute to Canada's most beloved artist. After several sold-out engagements in Toronto, Leonard Cohen, constantly reinventing himself throughout his long career, helping generations of fans understand the changing society around them. This is a show about his extraordinary life, with his music and poetry celebrated through a remarkable company of artists. If you're in Montreal, go check out that show until January the 12th. That is it for me. That is it for Culturally Jewish. I want to wish everyone a Chag Sameach, a Happy New Year, and we will see you again in 2025.
Just a couple minutes old, two strangers in a hospital bed. Now you're putting life on fast forward. Three monkeys jumping around the room. We were bouncing off the wall, broken bones and a bump in the head. Back then you were 10 feet tall. Everybody needs you, everybody sees you, everybody's judging you, but one day they will be you. And when she's there, you see her trying. When she's up, you kick her down. But when I'm home, I know she's thriving, 'cause nobody escapes this love. And when she's there, you see her trying. When she's up, you kick her.
My name is Michael Freeman. I am the director of the Canadian Jewish News Podcast Network. When we first started podcasting at the Canadian Jewish News, we had to use the boardroom, and there was this wall of huge hardcover tomes filled with back issues of the CJN print edition, the old weekly paper dating back to the 60s and 70s. And because our microphone setup was not what you would call professional, my co-host and I had to prop up our microphones on these giant books, these tomes. We were literally recording on top of history. Today, the CJN Podcast Network has around a dozen shows. We're at 2 million downloads all time. Like everything we produce at the CJN, our podcasts are totally free. There's no paywall. You can listen to everything for free forever. But we do rely on the community to keep us going. And you can help. Please visit thecjn.ca/donate to make a tax-deductible donation.